Hey guys, Kit here of Burn 1. I'm doing a little updated deck profile on my current Sword Art Online standby English format regional deck. I'm playing at basically all the regionals at this point. So let me just get into it. It's a little different than the one I used for the shop challenge because the one for the shop challenge was the one I threw together kind of hastily and didn't do enough testing to figure out certain cards that I would want and the playstyle. So I'm just going to go through it. It's a little different formatting because I think it's important that I'm able to show you some of the neat interactions I guess the deck has. So we're still running 4 runners. It's probably the best turn 1 opener and a decent turn 2 when you have our second beater here, which is the level 0 Silica Bomb. So even turn 2 you can drop a Silica Bomb and the runner kill something with this and then attack with the runner and then still possibly +1 off of it. The runner's secondary effect we don't really use in the deck. There's only one card, or I guess there's technically 2 cards that have Xenon in the name that you can buff, but it's so negligible that I don't think it's ever come up. We still run the level 0 bomb too, just because it's a really good pitch outlet all game, and at level 0 it's probably one of the best pitch outlets too, to combo with standby if you're gonna open up with the nut hand of being able to start playing level 1s as like turn 1. Next, the card that makes the deck work very well is the standby combo. So on play, you can top check, look at it, leave it there, put it into the waiting room. So it's a good way to mill your deck early, as well as seeing what you're going to plus off of the climax combo, because the climax combo is when you play the standby, reveal top card, avatar, net trade character, add it to hand. So you can see that. Also combos very well with your brainstormer and your level 0 bomb, because you can top check to make sure it's either a climax or a character. If it's a character that you want, say you need a guarantee to pitch a card from your hand because you want to get the standby target in waiting room early on, you can top check with this to make sure it's a character, then go ahead and play the level 0 bomb or the reverser and add that character to the hand and ditch the card that you want into the waiting room. Also, it's another way to luck sack your way into openings that are really silly, since you can mill good targets into the waiting room. This is your plus combo for like the first few levels, because you just want to slam standby as much as possible to get as much advantage as you can. And yeah, I mean, it's a solid card. I was thinking of running it at 3-0, but I just really love opening up with that card either way. Next, this is kind of different than I think other builds normally would pick. If you don't want to play the draw brainstormer, I recommend playing the yellow Global 500 and then Searcher Brainstorm. It kind of color fixes for yellow a little bit since the deck runs almost no yellow. So if you get in a predicament where you can't play Asuna without standby, you can still at least play it from hand easier. And also it's more selectivity. I played this version just because I do play the switch top end, so it makes my level 0 Kirito, or I mean level 3 Kirito costless, which is important in matchups where you get hit really hard early and do really bad, like really poorly cancels. So that way you don't build up as much stock as normal, but this gives you an out since you're able to still play a lot of characters easily with this, since you don't have to spend stock on a level 3. Second reason I play it is more of I like sacking my opponent. I think it's really fun when you play things that are strong but also can just sack people out. So I use this brainstormer as my choice because I like sacking into standbys off of the draw, and also it's also a good pitch outlet for just discarding targets. So I mean, it kind of fills all the roles that I want it to. I think if I wanted a more stable version, I would definitely go with the yellow Asuna brainstorm, or maybe even the salvager brainstorm. But yeah, I like the sacky nature of it, and also the extra 500 on my counters is helpful sometimes because you can pump one lane up to 8k and the other one up to 9.5. So yeah. Next, this is a card we did add. Originally, I didn't have this card, otherwise I would have tested it a lot earlier, but after messing around with the deck, this card is super good. Basically, you can +2 off of your standbys this way. It makes your counters to a 3k splittable counter. With the brainstormer in the back row, it's a 3/5 splittable counter at level 1. This card is pretty important in certain matchups. The mirror match, you definitely want this card because that matchup is all about hand size and who's better at side attacks, basically, and getting counters to hand. Because basically, whoever has the counters kind of dictates whether your opponent's going to side or not. Next reason is AOT matchup. This card lets you shut off multiple lanes against the combo at 1 if you hit 1 first, and able to have this out with your 1/1s. It's pretty solid. So the effect is whenever you use an act ability, you give 1k to the character, only once per turn, I believe. Yep. And then the second effect is when you play Climax, you can pay 1 to look up to top 4 and add an avatar net trait character to your hand. Really good to keep hand advantage, also to mill your deck a lot early. Early on too, if you go second and you play one of these and a standby, you can sack your way into a 1/1 Silica to pull out from the waiting room by milling 4 from the top of your deck, getting a +1, and then milling the 1/1 into the waiting room through this effect. Overall solid card. I don't know if this should be bumped up to 3 or not. If I bump it up to 3, I think we just cut one of the Brainstormers, since the Brainstormer is less useful depending on the matchup. In the mirror match, you definitely want this and a Brainstormer so you can get as much value as you can, basically. On to the level 1 game. Still, we're playing 4 because I like sacking into this at level 0. 1/1 Silica at 7/5. You have 2 or more other characters on trait and hand on core. This combos really well with the 2/2 Lisbeth. It's the reason we play it, and it's overstated 7k wall. It's even if you have to play it from hand because you didn't hit standby, it's completely fine, which is great. It's a solid card, sits there almost all game, especially when you have counters in hand. Decent wall. Well, I mean, what more can I say? The reason we play 4, like I said, is I like to sack into this a lot more early on. Some lists will cut it down to 3 because honestly the card's not super amazing if you have to play it from hand. So some lists will play 3 and play 4 costless characters. But in my case, I love sacking and making people mad. So 4 1/1s. Let's go. Next, I did cut the level 1 Kirito, and I just went in favor for 3 level 1 bomb. What is it? Oh, her name's Keiko when she's not Silica. Reason being is it has on play ditch a climax, salvage a character. This makes it so your blue gates have more value throughout the game as well. But also the fact that it's a bomb, so if I hit level 1 first, I can like get out 2 1/1s in a lane with my setup back row and 1 lane with a level 1 bomb. I can pump it to like 3/5 if need be. Swing, kill a level 0 with it, and then on the backswing, even if my opponent does kill this, their Aaron does lose out to it because it's a level 1 reverser. That way they don't get as much advantage out of the climax combo that Aaron has. And then this also gets rid of pesky level 1s that I don't want to deal with, like other level 1 wall decks. I can play this out and crash into it and not have to worry. This deck runs 2 1/0 2k counters, Asuna counters. I kind of want to bump this up to 3. I don't know if it's worth it to be at 3 though. I don't have a lot of really good salvaging mechanics, so after using it, usually it's gone. Might consider bumping it up to 3 somehow. Might make a cut somewhere at 2. Not exactly sure. It's just a strong counter, and it's way more important in the mirror matches and in other matchups where you're playing against wall decks. It's just really good to have. We move on to level 2 here. We're still keeping 3 of the Lisbeth. I'm considering cutting this down to 2. I can't figure out if I want to yet or not. It's just so good sacking into this. Almost every game you're going to get this out. You should be setting up your hand and everything to get this out at level 1. And there are games too, because I run 3, there's multiple targets, so I can sack into having 2 of these out at level 1. And it's really annoying for my opponent when that does happen. But it's really hard. The list is pretty tight for the most part right now. It's just really hard to decide what to cut because, you know, you just need cards in the waiting room for this deck. So I have it at 3 right now. I haven't really figured out what, if I do cut this, what I'm going to do exactly. It just needs more testing. If you guys are interested in this deck and you want to try that out, go ahead and test it out and let me know how it goes in the comments. The play might actually be just to play 2 because of the card is so dead on draw. Oh, and one other mention is like if you have the 1/1 Silica's out, they kill your entire field. What happens too is a play you can pay 1 to rest this and then pitch encore the other 2. That way you still keep your entire field. So if you have a hand clogged with a bunch of level 3s, which does happen occasionally, that's how you handle getting a full field back. We play 1 of the support. This is basically only for the matchups Okay, we have people who are playing the anti-damage counter in Sao, the people that play green. So we have this in there to dodge stuff like that when they leave characters on the board. Sometimes you can get away with this in Yami matchup, though I've only ran into that matchup once. Another matchup. Does this block events? I always forget. Yep. Sora Online as well, or not Sora Online. Attack on Titan as well. If you want to prevent at level 3 them from moving their level 3s Mikasas, that way you can make it so that they can't remove a card from their deck to increase odds of canceling. It's a good way to do that too. This is a very niche card. It almost never gets played. It's super matchup dependent, but the problem is it's just so good when you need it in the matchups. It's really good to have as a one-of, and as always, if you hit standby at level 2, and this is a really good target to pull out if you don't have any good Lisbeths, pumps up your 7/5s to 8/5s and makes them even that much more scarier. We play one of Lifa counter. I actually really want to play the memory counter. I don't think that exists in English. I have to really look it up. There's a yellow Asuna counter that sends things to memory. But because it doesn't run in English, I just played the one of Lifa counter. It's a good way to pitch cards. It came in handy in the last regional to pitch Climax out of my hand and dig a little deeper. As always, you do get to cancel more often than you use this. I use this a lot actually at level 2 more than level 3, just to keep tempo up and make sure that I get the cancels at 2 when I need it. We move on to level 3. We cut the Lisbeth down to 2. The card is amazing. I kind of really want it at 3 just because it sets up so many good plays. With 3 stock, you can get 2 level 3 characters out. So even if you get to hit too hard and you just refreshed, I mean, you can Lisbeth into Lisbeth. And it's like the best feeling ever because you've basically paid, what is that? Yeah, you've paid 2 stock and 2 cards, and you still get a level 3 beater that's overstated. And then in the fact that you do pull out Asuna from the waiting room, so it's 13k wall at level 2, it's pretty scary. And like I said, it does set up scenarios where you do pitch like level 3s to stand them out on refresh. It's just a really good card for those scenarios, and also just when you get pushed too hard. So this is a card we added recently too. I think this card adds such good value in the deck. We play it as a 2-of. It's the Xenon level 3. It cantrips on play. I really love early plays that cantrip. Just being able to draw a card gains 2k power on play. You can set up draws with your back row, what is it, the Silica combo with standby, so you can top check to see if you want to draw that card and then draw it if need be. It's a good way to randomly sack into climaxes if you need it. The major factor I play this is because at level 2, if I play this early and I get the restand, which is usually more likely than not, I just get such big tempo swings with this card, and it actually combos really well with standby. There are scenarios where you pull this out with standby and then can restand it, which I'll show you in a little bit. We play this one of Yui still. I thought about it a lot more. We only want to play 1. It's not good enough to be at 2. It's a great standby target if you randomly trigger standby, put in the front row. It's really good in the AOT matchups. AOT also plays, or like builds a lot of stock if they play the Mikasa end. So this can really screw them over if they're about to refresh. You can just burn 1 damage and then possibly put climaxes in there. Really good play. Also, and it gets really big, so it can kill some things on play. And then against Mikasa, if this is in the front row, you stand by it out in the front row. Every time they burn, you get a mill cards, so it just makes it so you can live a lot more against that matchup. Alright, this is the big reason I really love playing Standby Sao, besides its like wall game, is this Asuna. The fact that I can pull this out at level 2, I think is absolutely ridiculous. 2k power to everything in front of this, so your 1/1s become 9/5s with the effect of sending things to memory, which can be really annoying. In the AOT matchups, you can send their Kirito, level 1/0 Kiritos to memory so they don't get any effects off of it. You can send other encore targets to memory. Just anything you can send to memory that's really annoying can really screw up your opponent. The second reason I like this, besides the fact that it combos with, is the switch combo, is that if your opponent wind triggers this back to your hand, you just get a search off of it when you play it from hand. So they essentially plus you 2 off of this. And if they do bounce it back to your hand, usually if you don't have yellow on the clock, you can clock this because you most of the time you're going to hold on to the second one. Clock this, and then you can play your yellows from your hand. Yellow in this deck is really tricky sometimes. It's kind of annoying just because we only run 5 yellow cards. That's why I suggest playing the Asuna Brainstormer and stop playing the Saki version I'm playing here. But this card is just too good at level 2. It's just so good. Like I said, you pick like Elizabeth's, you refresh at 2, you just refreshed, you pitch this with Elizabeth to heal, and then you stock it or standby it out is just absolutely insane to me. I just love this card. Makes your 2/2 Elizabeths 12/5s also back up with a 2k backup in hand. It's madness, man. I just love this card. It's like the whole reason I even play Sao. Our final level 3 other choice healers here. Look, we're gonna play Gates. I like the switch combo the best. 5 attacks with 3 characters is pretty good. There are some times where you just can't do the 5 attacks because your opponent has a way to play around it and stuff, but it happens occasionally. It's a good card. Healer also combos with the fact that you can sack your Brainstormer to play it for free, which is, I think, very important. So there's scenarios where you can Brainstorm, sack the Arrested Brainstorm to play this out and heal. Scenarios where you're really low on stock because you got pushed really hard too fast, very good as well. It's just a good card. It's overstatted too. It's at 10/5, and then with the support it's 12/5. Climax 13/5. If I use a startup effect, it's what is it? It can be 13/5, 14, or even 14/5 depending on what's on the field. It can get pretty big pretty fast. I like it. What can I say? Finally, of course, we're playing 4 standby because the deck is sort of built around standby pretty much, and we play 4 blue gates so we can maximize the advantages we get off of just getting standbys back to our hand. So I'm just going to go over some of the common plays you should be looking for when you're playing this deck really quick. It's nothing too special. I think most people who have played the deck or even like consider playing this deck already knows. So there are plays where you want to play this early on to top check, you add to hand and ditch this because you have standby in hand, and then you standby to get it out and then kill one of their characters. Really important. Early play sack move, so you can start snowballing early game. The deck is just a complete tempo snowball deck. That's how you want to play it. One of my favorite ways to kill people, which has happened before, there are scenarios where you're like, let's say you're like double this out and one Xenon or whatever. We got lucky or something really good. So you swing, you trigger, you go there, you swing here next, you trigger, and you hit standby off of the trigger. What happens here is if you have, this is the reason we actually put this in the deck too, besides being able to play from hand. So if you have this in waiting room, you're gonna summon this here. It's gonna be pretty weak, but whatever. This dies. Because this is here, we'll trigger this, and then, so we hit standby here, and now that we swing here, we can do the effect. We'll pay out the standby, and then like we mill 2 cards and we hit a climax and stand this. Now we got 4 attacks for basically nothing. Well, I mean the cost besides that, but I mean we got to pay out the climax and got the get the stock from it again, and we got another attack in. It's just such good tempo at level 2 when that does happen. I've killed people at level 3 doing this a lot, just randomly sacking into standby, playing it over here, and then swinging last in the center. If you're planning to do this setup too, you got to be very careful about your attack orders and knowing what you need to play over, because you can't just swing with this and play over this if you hit it first, because then you lose the attack damage. And then as well as it's really sacky, but you basically have to trigger it the second trigger of the attack. But it's happened enough where it's a play you should be watching out for, especially if you start doing the switch combo. I mean, you can swap things around and get multiple attacks until this gets pulled out, and then swing with the center lane last to restand this again. It's just a really, really good card, and the fact that it cantrips at 2 is super good. And then, you know, just watch out for the normal switch combos. As long as you have either 2 Asuna or 2 of the level 3 Kirito out, one or the other. You can still get your 5 attacks off by just like swapping around and then swapping around. Just watch out for those kind of plays. Anything else that really needs to be seen here? I think that is it. There's no other spooky play I can think of other than, as I said before, I mean, if you're swinging, you run something or whatever and you hit standby, you can just play over it and play the Yui in the front row at level 2. Even at level 3, it's good. It just helps you live longer. Any other play I should be looking? Nothing I can think of off the top of my head right now, but yeah. Oh, and once again, you know, the 2-2 combo with the silicas here. Where is it? We'll just play 2, 1. So your opponent has a really big board. They kill all your stuff. At this point, you're gonna pay the 1 to rest this, and then ditch your cards to rest this, so you can get a full field again with big dudes. So yeah. Some things to note too, you really want to try with the standby because you lose out on extra damage. There's things you can do at like 0 where you level lock your opponent and start pulling out level 1s, so they have to start running into your level 1s, or you just like block their field, which is pretty cool. Another thing to note about this is that you really want to counter when you have the opportunity to, especially if you can split the counter somewhere to win 2 lanes at the same time. Because if you get the open lanes, you just get extra soul damage all the time off of those lanes. So you can get like win 2 lanes here and then move this up when you stand by this out, and then you can swing for 2-2-2 now, which is one good way to get back into the game. I just really like this deck because I feel like it never really falls behind tempo wise, even though you play a climax that doesn't provide any soul. What's nice about standby 2 is that it does have the soul trigger, so you have a lot of triggers in this deck. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's something like 24 triggers in this deck. So a lot of times you can just count your things out and know whether you're gonna side or not or whatever. You're just pumping out a lot of extra damage. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. If you make any changes and you think something works better, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to try out other stuff. I don't really play the English format too much. I've very recently got really competitive in the English format, since I feel it's at a point where I don't want to say the meta's better, but definitely the pricing, and I feel like it's a lot more fun. The meta right now is a little bit rocky early on in the year, but at the second half of the year, I think the meta is going to be great. There's just going to be so many good top decks to choose from to be able to play, and singles this year is going to be a lot of fun, at least in my opinion. So other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I'll try to link the whole deck in the comments. I'll leave a link there so you can see the whole list laid out. So check it out. If this is a deck you're interested in, go for it, man. I think it's the strongest deck in English right now. There's like almost no real bad matchup in my opinion. Worst case scenario, you go 50-50 in a lot of matchups. I mean, if there's another wall deck that walls out higher than you, you just gotta hold on to certain climax, the blue gates, to be able to side and force them to run into yours with your counters. Maybe, yeah. I mean, this deck has good matchups all around. I still think it's like the best deck, or at least the second best deck after AOT right now. So try it out, guys, and have fun with it. Later. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to support our content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, as it does help us to grow. And if you're feeling a little bit more generous, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/burn1.